Yeah, it's good to be here. Good to see you all. Good to stand here in front of you. I appreciate you guys coming. Here we go. It's another season. We have our home opener on Saturday, which we're excited about. We play a really, really good South Dakota team. Really good. And our schedule this year, we did it on purpose. We started off challenging. I think it's that time in our program to get some tests early, find out what we're made of. The Pac-12 is better than it's ever been in the history of the league. We've got 4 teams in the top 10, and Oregon just beat the senior national team, Team USA, which is crazy. So we knew going in, we were going to play those 4 teams twice, so that's 8 games against top 10 teams. So we needed to test ourselves early and get some good competition so that we can learn this stuff now before we learn it, so we don't have to learn it in January. So that's where we're at. So South Dakota, really good, as I think I've said. So we play them at noon. Ton of promotions going on. It's free for starters, and if you go to the game, come to the game at the beginning, and at the end, towards the end of the fourth quarter, they're giving out football tickets to the UCLA game, which is going to be a great game. Our football team obviously is kicking tail, and so we're excited about that, to be able to kind of partner with them. So if you come to our game, you can go to the football game for free. I mean, that's pretty cool. So we want to get that word out and get as many fans as we can for our home opener. We've got a good team. We deserve to, we want to have as many people there. It's such a huge advantage for us, this home court advantage. So that's kind of the State of the Union where we're at, and I'm excited to finally play at home.
Last year, if I remember right, you didn't even lose till the first week of January. So, I mean, losing was kind of not, you weren't accustomed to it. Now,
right.
You said you've increased the schedule, obviously. Do you feel like that it changes how your team operates, being down 0-2 and coming into the season? Or like, what's the difference, I guess?
Well, like I told the team, we've played 4% of our games. So we have, I'm not a math major, but we have 96% of our games left. So, yeah, we're not used to starting off 0-2. But we're also not used to starting on the road against 2 really good teams back east that we're unfamiliar with, and officials that we've never seen, and arenas we've never been in. So the sky has not fallen, and we're not panicking. Does it change our approach a little bit in terms of how we approach this week as we head into South Dakota? Sure. I told our team yesterday, I want us to be starving to play on Saturday, starving to get back playing well. And the other thing is, too, we lost to Cincinnati, they won 24 games last year and returned all 5 starters. And then Xavier's a really good team. But we didn't play great. And so it's one thing to lose and feel like, man, we played so well, and we're just not quite there. We did not play well. Those teams beat us. I'm not saying anything about, that they didn't beat us. They did. Fair and square, they deserved to beat us. But we certainly didn't play to our potential. So I think we're ready to get back out there. I told the team that we're going to not use our youth as an excuse, because, the saying in sports, like, your best quarterback's the one you have. We're young. Like, we're really, really young. And so we're going to learn by doing. And we're throwing these freshmen in the deep end and telling them to swim. And so we're going to look great some days. And some days it's going to be like, whew, we looked like a bunch of young freshmen, sophomores out there. And so as a coach, we have to, and it's so cliche and coachish, but we have to, it's a marathon. We have to coach these guys up. We have to be patient. The talent is definitely there for us to be really, really competitive. But it's, there's no greater teacher than experience, and we've got to learn by doing. So it's a long answer to your question. But yeah, we're not used to being 0-2, but 4% of our games, we'll be all right.
So what lessons were learned in those 2 games and maybe what can you fix immediately or hope to do so this week?
We need to fix everything. But I think every team, unless you win by 94 points, which we didn't, I know a certain team that did, there's a lot of things at this point in the season that need to be fixed. Our rebounding was not very good. Our turnovers are a problem. Again, a lot of that's youth. But so for us, we're going to switch the lineups up a little bit, maybe change some positions around. That's the one thing when you have a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, we're still learning them too. and figuring out where are they, the talent's there, but can we need to put them in positions for them to be their most successful. So that's what we're doing this week. I think, everything needs to be better. And I think our poise needs to be better, our collectiveness. I think, again, with youth, they're worried about themselves and thinking about myself and how am I doing? What am I doing? But that does not, that's good for track and field when you just need to stay in your lane, but it doesn't work well in basketball because that's not how you're successful in the sport. So teaching them how to do that, how to think outside themselves and their own mistakes or successes or whatever. So everything needs to get better. I do believe and know we have a good group of players, like they're good kids. We don't have a selfishness problem. We don't have a work ethic problem. We just have an experience problem. And so that as coaches, that's our job to teach and teach and teach and teach and correct and give them high fives and give them hugs and kick their tail when it needs to be kicked. And it's just going to be a 5-month journey with that. But I'm enjoying them. I do enjoy them.
So on the offense specifically, where you're not getting good shots or not making shots or both?
Yeah. The way that I like to coach, I think basketball is a player's game. Football to me is like a coach's game where, you got guys up in the booth that are telling the offensive tackle exactly the angle of which to go in each play. I like to coach basketball in a sense of that you teach them how to play and then you let them play. So there's freedom. We get out and run. And so players have to understand what's a good shot, what's a bad shot, what's a good pass, when to do it, time and score. And all of that takes a lot of time and chemistry on the court. So, yeah, we're taking, and I think field goal percentage is direct correlation of shot selection. So if you're taking bad shots, chances are your shooting percentage is going to be lower. So that's what we're doing a lot of film on. It's not you did this wrong. It's watching a possession and then asking them, is this a good shot, great shot, or a bad shot? Why? And we're doing that all the time. And that's really the only way you can learn. And then in practice, if, stopping play, is that a good shot? No. Why? And there's really no other way to teach it. So our shooting, last year we were an excellent shooting team, one of the best in the country, but we also had a lot of upperclassmen that knew what a great shot was. So great shots tend to go in a lot more than bad shots. So it's there's nothing wrong with our system or we're not reinventing the wheel. It's the same thing we've been doing. They just have to continue to learn what shots to take, when, and why.
You've talked about your youth, but how nice is it for you personally as a coach to finally have depth?
Oh, yes, it's nice. It's nice. The interesting thing is that it's a totally different dynamic in that we've got 10, 11 kids that can all play and not, 3 or 4 that are clearly better than the rest, which can sometimes make things easier in terms of this is your role, this is your role. Right now, roles are still pretty fluid, which can present its challenges too, in terms of, am I starting, am I not, am I coming off the bench, am I... And so they're figuring that out. But it is nice, like Lola Pendande got in foul trouble both games in the first quarter. And it's nice to have wow, we have people that can go in and play that position and know what they're doing. It's really nice. And it takes time to get legitimate depth, and we're finally there.
Think back on your years here. I mean, what's now been easier coming into the season versus maybe what's been harder or different things that way?
That's a good question. I feel like every year I've been here, the league has gotten better. The Pac-12 has gotten better in women's basketball, so that presents its own unique challenges every year. Just that it's, just when we feel like we're starting to get foothold, it's like the mountain gets steeper. But that's what we signed up for, so I'm not feeling sorry for ourselves. It's just every year kind of presents even more of a climb. But I think just being here now, I just feel a little more settled, a little more aware of what needs to be done, when, how. I think our recruiting is, we've settled into where we're not throwing, darts in the dark. We're a little more specific on what we're doing and who we can get and how we can get them. But yeah, every year feels new, feels different. I think the league just keeps getting better. Women's basketball, the parity continues to get better. You're seeing it used to be 99% of the dialogue about women's basketball was about UConn, and everyone else was the 1%. That's shifted. So, you know, we're a part of that. So being in the best league in the country helps, but it's hard. So I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I feel like you know, I'll always be feeling like I'm learning and chasing. Thank you all. I appreciate you being here. See you Saturday.
Holy crap. That was the first thing Lynn said, too. She warm up the seat? A stand?
No, go ahead and sit.
No, no.
No, because you're too tall.
You're right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
The personnel changes obviously from year to year, but what's to be learned from last year's game at Minnesota that applies to this week?
Well, I thought it was not as we didn't know it, but Big Ten basketball a little more physical. I thought we were kind of overwhelmed with some of the physicality of the game. Got away from us with some turnovers, but yeah, we've got new teams right here. They're really good defensively. Minnesota is. They do a nice job. They have a plan. They do what they do all the time. And I think, I just finished watching their Oklahoma game where they were in control of and then kind of lost the handle late. But they really guard collectively, and then they've got all the pieces. Plenty of three-point shooters, a great post presence. They run some, again, it's kind of like smash mouth basketball, trying to make you earn things. So we got to have a good week of practice and get ready for that.
Larry, it's a small sample size, but are you sensing that this team has, has developed a good chemistry so far in this season?
Yeah, no, we're as close as a team I've ever been a part of. A player, coach, it's just got a good vibe to it. We've got some good leadership, and not only leadership, but I think we got a bunch of guys that are willing to pay attention and follow the lead, and playing together. It's but the key is when adversity strikes, and I think we had a couple of those glimpses when we were at Nevada, where the wheels kind of came off and we were able to regroup. Those are those little miniature defining moments that allow you to have a little bit of faith in each other to stay consistent with whatever it is we're doing and get those leads back. And a level of connectivity, I think, is there amongst our guys, learning to have each other's back. But we're still, as we got a lot of youth and freshness, and these games are going to present different obstacles, and staying connected is always more of a challenge when things aren't going your way. So we'll find that out. But I do like our chances. It's like what we've talked about with hard work. Hard work doesn't guarantee success, but without it you don't have a chance. I think the same thing goes with having a tight-knit group. You can be really close and connected, but that doesn't mean you're going to be successful. But I don't think you have a chance if you're not. And so I like the fact that we do have a real cohesive group.
Because you have, a lot of youth in this group, freshmen, sophomores, do you feel like that kind of adds to that? There's not a lot of guys that are able to say, well, this is how it's done, or whatever, trying to get their own, that they all kind of just band together because they have nobody else but themselves.
Yeah, I think we know that, and we've discussed that a lot during the summer and early in our practice sessions this fall. I don't think anybody thinks that they need to accomplish anything. Anybody needs to put the weight of the world on their shoulders to get things done for us, but it's going to be very much the essence of a team, and we're going to depend on each other, to score and to defend, and that message has always been woven amongst our team, and that's going to be important. That's going to be important. We don't have maybe a Cedric to throw the ball to at the end of a possession that you can count on, going and trying to get a bucket. And we've got talented guys, but I think everybody's really soaking it up, the fact that we've got to do it together. And we're gonna really have to execute coming up in the next few weeks with the opponents that we have. There's some elite defensive teams, and it's both ends of the floor. But we're going to have to go earn. It's not going to be quite as easy as it was Friday night. where things were presented to us, and we're going to have to. The level of execution is going to have to be crisp, and we're trying to create that this week.
100 games by 100 points every week.
I'm just hoping we can win a game by 1 point. I'll take a 1 point game at this juncture for sure.
So with, obviously talking about that youth, do you feel like Timmy Allen and Booth Gotch and maybe some of those other guys that have been here, Riley Batten, that they can lead that experience? I mean, it shows in the stat sheet and that they're able to do it, but I mean, do you get that sense that you need those guys to do it?
Leaders? Yeah, it's always been a big discussion. It seems, that's part of media and conversation is leadership, and I don't think there's any pressure on anybody to be that guy. I think it's happening pretty organically amongst our team, and we're getting leadership from a variety of different people. I've always said, I think you guys have heard me talk about it before, that the little scale that I always kind of came up with, whether it's 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 100, where do you see yourself on the leadership scale? And I think there's an opportunity to move up a notch on any given day. Just, there's a lot of things you can do to impact a team and to provide leadership, and it doesn't always correlate with success and with numbers and production on the court. But, there's a lot of things going on internally with our squad where guys are, it's really cool. There's guys helping each other, and there's guys that are asking for help when they don't know what's going on. I think there's always been kind of that dynamic with a male-driven male group. The old joke about how we'll never stop and ask for directions. You just try to forge your way through it until your wife wants to kill you kind of deal. We've got guys that are showing a little bit of vulnerability and want to be taught, and instead of battling and trying to sort it out on their own, are actually asking for help, whether it be a teammate or the coaching staff. So leadership's funny that way. You have to have a group that wants to be led, and I think your leaders don't always want to be the leaders. They need to have an opportunity to be led and told something. So we don't really have a group of know-it-alls, and it's a fun group to be around. The energy is good, and then when we're having a lot of great little connections within a big group.
Without naming names, what's your level of happiness with the way this recruiting class for tomorrow has come together?
Oh, it's awesome for us. I think from a basketball perspective, from being some highly skilled players, that's a huge part of it. Obviously, you have to recruit talent and guys that understand the game, but they're just great kids. They're really unique kids. They're not all the same. Different personalities that I think is going to add, a great deal to the existing group that we have already. And I think there's some physicality amongst those kids, maturity and size and weight room that isn't always the case with freshmen, a few of them in particular. And, some athleticism that we haven't had in the past where, that can be fun if it's used properly. So, yeah, I think about the term DNA, and we talk about it in our program, being different, noticeable, and appealing. And each one of those kids are, in their own way, they're different, and they're very noticeable, and they're great kids. They're high character kids from great families, and it's an exciting time. It really is for us.
After the Nevada game on the post-game radio, you said something to the effect of, as a coach and as a staff, going back to square one this year. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that?
Well, I just think there's an awful lot of teaching, Kurt, that goes on, and you have to kind of assess your class. If we were all put in a teaching mode, and it's funny. I had a good laugh yesterday with some of the guys on our staff. Just something that comes up that was taken literally, and I'll be darned if it was, and it gives you a chuckle because you don't realize how much teaching goes on and how much is involved with some of these guys. So it is like teaching some of the beginning you know, the 001 classes. Square one in that regard is that there's a lot of teaching going on. I think our coaches love it, and we're making some good headway. We just had a staff meeting upstairs, and we almost talked about, okay, it's time to go from B to C with, you know, pick and roll coverage and some other things. I think we have this down, or, you know what, we don't have this down, we can't move on yet, and we're trying to get an assessment from where our guys are, and that's completely normal. It's not anything that's frustrating. It's actually invigorating a little bit to go back, and you're kind of refreshing yourself on some of the things, back to some of the simpler things or the so-called little things. So it's kind of neat for all of us. I think that's what I was referring to in the comment.
And then along those lines, I've got some glimpses of Coach Martinez working individually with players. Is that kind of his niche for right now, or strength maybe?
Yeah, I think he's you know, he's really good. He was quite a player himself. He understands skill development. You know, guys want to have people that are willing to put in the time with them and make a connection and help develop some of their weaknesses. You know, identify those weaknesses and work on them. And Henry's also been doing some international recruiting, certain areas that he's familiar with. And, you know, he's one of those guys. Also, it's, you know, we've been really fortunate to have the staff primarily intact the whole time, and you get to learn each other's nuances and strengths and weaknesses. So not only are we teaching a group of players a bunch of new things, but we're trying to incorporate a staff member, actually Donnie as well, into what we're doing, and everybody's getting the lay of the land and finding their niche within the organization. So that's kind of been interesting too, to, you know, not have the same old status quo that you kind of get used to, but you throw in some new personality. So it's kind of spicing up the whole program.
And one scheduling question: you haven't returned the Missouri game yet. Do you still owe them that at some point?
Yeah, next year you can pencil that one in. We'll be at Missouri. We had a few glitches with getting it done this year. So, yep. You're paying attention.
With a guy like Rylan Jones, what makes it possible for him to even be in the ballpark of a triple double? You know, like what is his skill sets that kind of lends himself to that type of play?
Well, you know, I think Rylan is a young man, a basketball player that makes the play that's presented. You know, I don't think he was comfortable knowing that he needed a couple points to get a triple-double. It was pretty obvious. You know, tried to call a couple plays to get him a shot, and he just is a little bit, you know, unassuming that way. And I think I think I've watched him long enough that he's going to try to get his teammates involved and find them shots, and there were plenty of those available Friday night. And not just credit to Rylan and Booth for being able to get triple doubles, but the shots have to go in. You know, that's the other factor. It sounds really easy, but so both those guys were distributing the ball with their teammates. They both had almost 10, I think 8 and 9 rebounds at halftime. And I addressed that before the game is how we had to improve from the Nevada game on collectively rebounding the ball. We had our smalls, some of them were leaking out, thinking about transition, and we gave up second shots and opportunities that way. So I think our bigs were a little bit locked up at times with the other team's bigs, and the guards come in and free rebound, and they love it because then they don't have to receive an outlet pass and they can push it. So that makes your fast break a little better. And yeah, so I think in the case of Rylan, he's always been a young man that's good to, I guess, just to make it simple, is going to make the play that the game presents to him and not make up his mind ahead of time. And so he checked all those marks, I think, and took a number of charges as well. He's a tough kid. You know, you have to be tough-minded to rebound and do some of those things and put your body in front of people. I think we took 8 charges as a team, and the goal was 4, one every 10 minutes, and we got one every 5 minutes. So those kind of things besides fancy triple-double stats and all of the offensive firepower, means I think that we're committed to both sides of the ball. Okay. I thought somebody was going to say something about my Jazz hat. It's game day. Okay.